How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Daf 5 of Masechta Sanhedrin. Friends, what did we get up to? Okay. Yeah, there's going to be great stuff. More about like judges and stuff like that. Great stuff. Alright. We're going to start in Daf Daled Amud Beis all the way at the bottom. Tana Rabbanan. The rabbis taught Dini Mammon is Bishlosha. This is very interesting stuff. This is great stuff. Dini Mammon is Bishlosha. Okay, so of course, as we know, Dini Mammon is with 3 judges. But if he was a mumche l'rabim, if he was an expert judge, so then he could judge even alone. Very interesting. So I'd imagine this is talking about Hodos Valvos, because Gzelos V'Chavos, you need 3 expert judges, right? I assume, unless there's like a nafkamina between a mumche and a mumche l'rabim, that could actually be interesting. I assume that this is talking about Hodos Valvos, because if it's Gzelos V'Chavos, you need 3 experts, right? And here we're saying you can even have 1 expert. But if you're a mumche l'rabim, then you can judge even alone. But even so, I mean, if the pasuk, where do we learn out from the pasuk? I mean, if you say that you need 3 experts, it's because it says Elohim 3 times, and Elohim is experts, and it says 3 times. So where would that distinction come from? It's probably easier to say that it's talking about Hodos Valvos. If you say it's talking about Hodos Valvos, so then you can make the argument to say that 1 judge is enough, and so while we would normally need 3 adjotis, 1, if he's a mumche l'rabim, then 1 would be enough. I imagine that's probably the simplest way to understand it. And that would also be like Rav Acha Breder Ravika, who says that really, that there's no Eruv Parshias, and therefore all you really need is 1 hedjit, but because of the Oshvei Kronis, we say 3 adjotis. So we're saying, but if he's a mumche l'rabim, then don afilu chidi. I imagine that's probably the easiest way to understand this. Omer of Nachman says, although it would be, I wonder if Tosfos asked this kasha or something. Anyways, fine. Okay, yeah, there might be some interesting stuff here. But I imagine that how I just explained it is probably at least one way to understand it. Though it would be a kasha on Rava, right? Because Rava says you need 3. What would be the scenario where you can have less than 3? Anyways, the truth is it's going to come up in other places as well. Anyways, fine. Amr Rav Nachman says, Rav Nachman can go no. Don dine mamanis biyechidi. Rav Nachman says, for example, I can judge dine mamanis biyechidi because I'm a mumche l'rabim. V'chein Amr Reb Chia can go no don dine mamanis biyechidi. Reb Chia also says that I, Reb Chia, can judge dine mamanis alone because I am a mumche l'rabim. They ask Akasha, what does it mean exactly that they're a mumche l'rabim? When Rav Nachman says, I can judge yechidi, right? Going on don dini mamanis biyechidi. When Reb Chia says, going on don dini mamanis biyechidi, what qualifies them to be able to do such, to be able to do that? So going on the gamirna v'savirna v'nakidna rishusa, avalona rishusa dini lo dina, odum avagav lo rishusa dini dina. The shaila is, to be a mumche means gamirna v'svirna, gamir v'savir. Gamir means that you know a lot. Okay, you've learned a lot, you've studied, you put in the time, you put in the effort, and you know a lot of stuff. And savir means that you can apply it, right? So that no matter what case is thrown at you, no matter what nuances there are to each particular case, you can apply the vast knowledge that I know. So gamirna, that you know stuff, and savirna, you can apply that. You can use svara, logic, and apply things, and infer things, etc. Okay, so that's kind of the baseline for being a mumche, gomer v'saver, in terms of like actual knowledge and application of that knowledge. But then there's also, do you have to have permission? Do you have to be authorized? Right? The Reish Galusa, right, who was the head of the Jewish community in Bavel, has to authorize you to be a mumche l'rabim, and then you could judge yechidi. So that's what we want to know, right? When Rav Nachman and Reb Chia say, "Kigon ana don dini mamanis biyechidi," does that mean that not only are they gomer v'savir, of course, Rav Nachman and Reb Chia, but also they have permission from the proper authorities? Or does it mean even without such permission, you would be able to don afilu biyechidi. So that's what the Gemara wants to know. Do you need this permission as well? So again, fourth line of the Gemara, Ibayli, that's the kasha. Kigon ono, for example, digamirna v'savirna, that I'm learned and I can apply my knowledge, v'nakitna reshusa, and I also have permission, I'm authorized. Avalonakit reshusa dine lo dina, but without such authorization, then the judgment would be absolutely irrelevant. Or perhaps avagav lo nakit reshusa dine dina, or perhaps even if he doesn't have the proper authorization, still, if he judged, then the din would still be applicable and relevant. Tashma Kamina de Marzutra Beder of Nachman. Marzutra Beder of Nachman, who was Gomer V'Savir but did not have permission. Don Dina V'To, he judged a case and he erred. He made a mistake. He gave the wrong verdict. Also, the comment of Yosef, the case came before of Yosef. Omar Lein, he says to Marzutra Beder of Nachman, Im kibluch alayu lo tishalim. Look, if they accepted you upon them as their judge, and they say we accept your ruling, okay, well then they accepted whatever the ruling was. And tomorrow we're actually going to talk a bit about what these mistakes may have looked like. But anyways, if they accepted your judgment upon you, right? They said we accept you as our judge. Well, then you don't have to pay out of your own pocket because they accepted. Milichatchila. Ve'ilo, but if they didn't accept you, zil shlim, well, then you have to make it right. You have to actually pay out of your own pocket. So if you wrongly awarded Shimon $1,000, but really it belongs to Ruvain, so you have to pay Ruvain out of pocket. So shmamina kilo nakit reshusa dine dina shmamina. So what do we see? Well, Marzutra Beder of Nachman didn't have authorization, and yet he judged this case, and he got it wrong. What we do not say is that, well, how about this? Well, how about this? What we do say is that, Marzutra Beder of Nachman, you made a mistake, you improperly awarded Shimon $1,000, you can't take it away from Shimon, you have to pay Ruvain out of pocket. Now, if we were to say that his ruling is irrelevant, that if you don't have reshus, then your ruling is irrelevant, well then just the whole thing should just be nullified as if it never happened, and the money goes back to Ruvain, and it's like nothing ever happened. But that's not what we say. We say that the verdict is valid, the ruling is valid, Shimon keeps the $1,000, but because Marzutra, Beder of Nachman, did not have permission to be judging, and also they didn't accept his, the verdict upon themselves, but he was Gomer V'Savir, therefore he has to pay out of pocket. So we see that Gomer V'Savir, but doesn't have Rishus, so the verdict, right, the ruling applies, and if he makes a mistake, he's going to have to pay out of pocket. Okay, so there's the answer. Kilo nakit reshusa dine dina. That even if he doesn't have permission, it is still a valid judgment. Omar Rav says, Rav, Haiman debay lemeidon dina v'ita'a mibay lemifter. Look, if a person wants to be a judge and also avoid Marzutra Beder of Nachman's fate, right? Avoid a scenario where you are going to be responsible to pay out of pocket for mistaken rulings. Lishko reshusa mibei reish gelusa. Well, then you better get permission from the reish gelusa. Shmuel also has the same advice, which is to get permission from the reish gelusa. Tomorrow we're going to learn about exactly what the scenario is where you have to pay out of pocket. Because if you blatantly made a mistake, like if it was obvious that the mistake, I guess I'm just saying what it is now. Okay, I guess I'm trying to see if I'm Gemunah V'Savirna. There's this Gemara that's going to come up tomorrow. I'm trying to see if I can apply it correctly to over here. Anyways, you probably don't want me judging in the front. Anyways, we're going to learn today. Chaveh, this is great Gemaras. We're learning today, Mamish, about Smicha and about who has permission to give rulings. We're Mamish, in a few minutes, we're going to get to it. Mamish is at the bottom of the summit. But anyways, tomorrow we're going to talk about, look, if you make a mistake with like an objective thing, something like if you look in the halacha and mamish, the halacha clearly states that Reuven doesn't have to pay Shimon $1,000, and you said that he does have to pay Shimon $1,000. Well, in that case, he simply made a complete mistake, and the money would go back to Reuven. If it was a scenario where, but basically the point is that this is a scenario where it's more of a gray area, right? The Gemara is going to say this tomorrow, right? Where I assume that this is what it's talking about as well, right? Ta b'shikol adas, a scenario where some people say it goes to Shimon, some people say it goes to Reuven. The accepted opinion is that really Reuven would keep the $1,000. He wouldn't have to pay Shimon. However, he ruled that he has to pay Shimon. So if he doesn't have permission, well, then he's got to pay out of pocket, because he ruled like he didn't rule in the generally accepted way. Therefore, he has to take responsibility of it. But if he has permission from the Reish Galusa, he doesn't have to do that. Look, he paskin like an opinion, even if it's not the generally accepted opinion, but he paskin like an opinion. So the ruling is final, right? And that's that. Shimon, who was awarded the money, is going to say, look, you paskin like a valid opinion, right? So he's going to keep the money, and because the judge had permission, he doesn't have to pay out of pocket. But if he doesn't have permission, then he would have to pay out of pocket. I hope I was Savirna there. I hope I applied that right from tomorrow. Anyways, fine. Pshita me'achal la'achal me'asim la'asim. Okay, certainly if somebody in Bavel has permission from the Reish Galusa, so then they can judge Dina Mominis in Bavel. And if a person in Eretz Yisrael has permission from the Nasi, he could judge cases in Eretz Yisrael. And also somebody who has permission from the Reish Galusa would also be able to judge cases in Eretz Yisrael. Mahani, it would work. Because Eretz Yisrael is referred to as a shevet, and because Bavel is referred to as a shevet, and Eretz Yisrael is referred to as a mechokek. Kedetani is in a brisa, lo yasser shevet mi Yehuda. When it says the shevet will not be removed from Yehuda, Elu Rosh Galios Shebe Bavel Shrodin is Yisrael b'shevet. Those are the heads of the exile in Bavel, that they rule the people with a shevet. Mechokek mi ben Raglav, and when it says mechokek between his legs, Elu b'nei banav shel Hillel. These are the descendants of Hillel, who was in Eretz Yisrael. He is Hillel Abavli, but he made Aliyah to Eretz Yisrael, as we know, and he was the Nasi in Eretz Yisrael. Shemalamdin Torah berabim, that they teach Torah in public. And Rashi points out that what does Rashi point out? It's nice that we have Rashi again. What does Rashi point out? That shevet is lashon shrara v'yeshlan rishus lahafkir defker bezin hefker, etc. And mechokek is shraru mu'etes. So shevet is a sort of higher level of authority versus mechokek, which is a lower level of authority. And Bavel is referred to as a shevet, whereas Eretz Yisrael is referred to as a mechokek. So therefore, somebody who has permission from the Reish Galusa in Bavel would be able to judge in Eretz Yisrael. However, may hasam lahachamai. What about somebody who has permission from Eretz Yisrael? Can they judge in Bavel? Tashma Kaminir de Rabba Bar Chana. So Rabba, is Rabba Bar Chana the same as Rabba Bar Chana? I don't know. Anyways, the Rabba Bar Chana Don Dina Vita. So Rabba Bar Chana, who, as we're going to see in a few minutes, had permission from Rebbe in Eretz Yisrael, and he then went to Bavel. This I think was a Gemara in Psachim. I didn't look it up, but I think it's a Gemara in Psachim. That he went to Bavel, okay, and we're saying that he judged a case in Bavel, and I guess he made a mistake, and he made a mistake, and then he went back to Eretz Yisrael and he asked his uncle Reb Chia about what to do. Okay, so be'etzim, the point is, you have somebody who had permission from Eretz Yisrael, from the Nasi in Eretz Yisrael, and then he judged in Bavel and he made a mistake. Is he responsible to pay or not? So again, Tashma de Rabba Bar Chana Don Dina Vita. He judged he had permission from Eretz Yisrael. He then judged the case in Bavel and he made a mistake. Also, the Kam de Reb Chia, he came before his uncle Reb Chia in Eretz Yisrael. Omar Le, and Reb Chia responded to Rabba Bar Chana that ikibluch alayu lo tishalim. Well, look, if they accepted you upon themselves, well, they accepted you, so then you don't have to pay. Ve'ilo, but if they did not accept you, zil shlim, then go, but then you're responsible to pay. Rabba Bar Chana reshusa avanokit. But now Rabbi Bar Chana had permission from Rebbe, as we're about to see, in Eretz Yisrael. So Shmamina me'asim lahacha. So we see that from Eretz Yisrael to here in Bavel, lo mahane Shmamina, that permission would not work from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel, and that is why Reb Chia told Rabbi Bar Chana that if they didn't accept you upon themselves, well then you, Rabbi Bar Chana, will be responsible to pay. V'lo mahani, in fact, the Gemara, wait a second. Permission from Eretz Yisrael does not work in Bavel. The Rabbi Bar Rav Huna, Rabbi the son of Rav Huna, when he would argue with, when he would get into an argument with the Reish Gelusa, Omar, he said, Labminaichu nokitna reshusa. I don't have permission from you. I don't have permission from you, Reish Gelusa. I have permission. Nokitna reshusa my Abba Mari. I have permission from my father, Rav Huna. Right? It says, Rabbi Rav Huna, I have permission from my father, Rav Huna. V'Abba Mari me Rav. And my father Rav Huna has permission from his Rebbe, Rav. V'Rav me Reb Chia. And Rebbe has permission from his uncle, Reb Chia. Reb Chia me Rebbe. And Reb Chia has permission from Rebbe. So therefore, what Rabbi Rav Huna is saying, I don't need your permission in Bavel, Reish Gelusa. I have permission from Rebbe. None other than Rabbi Yehuda Nasi in Eretz Yisrael. I.e., he's saying that the Rishus from Eretz Yisrael is better than the Rishus in Bavel. Well, yeah, he could say, Rabbi Bar Huna could say whatever he wants. That doesn't make it true. In fact, the permission in Bavel is stronger than that of it from Eretz Yisrael. Well, then the Gemara asks, okay, so one second. So if we're saying that Rishus from Eretz Yisrael will not be helpful in Bavel, well then, why did Rabbi Bar Chana get Rishus from Rebbe when he was about to go to Bavel? Right, so we're about to see that Rabbi Bar Chana received Rishus from Rebbe in Eretz Yisrael right before he went to Bavel. But if Rebbe's Rishus in Eretz Yisrael is not going to help him much in Bavel, so why did he get it in the first place? Well, there are border cities. There are cities on the border that are technically in Bavel, but they follow the halachos of Eretz Yisrael. So for those places, and the minhagim, whatever, the policies, the ways of Eretz Yisrael, therefore the Rishus from Rebbe would work in those places. Okay. My Rishusa. What is this Rishus? Kivaldi. Okay, we've been talking about that, right? That you get Rishus, that you get permission. They have to get permission. The Rabbi Bar Chana got permission from Rebbe. What is this Rishus? Wait, should I switch now? Yeah, let me switch. Yeah, okay, 1 second. This is awesome stuff. You ready? Are you ready? This is great stuff. My Rishusa, what is this permission that Rabbi Bar Chana received from Rebbe? Kavanoch is Rabbi Bar Chana leBavel. When Rabbi Bar Chana was making Yerida from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel, Omer le Reb Chia le Rebbe. So Rabbi Bar Chana's uncle, Reb Chia, as we're going to see in a second, was his uncle. Reb Chia was also Rav's uncle, as we're also going to see in a second. So Rabbi Bar Chana's uncle was Reb Chia, as well as Rav's uncle. So when Rabbi Bar Chana was making Yeridah from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel, Amalei Reb Chia le Rebbe, so Reb Chia said to Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, Ben Achi, my nephew, the son of my brother Chana, Yored the Bavel, is making Yeridah to Bavel. Yore, Yodin, Yatir, B'choris Yatir. You hear this? So Reb Chia asks Rebbe, Yore, can Rabbi Bar Chana give Piskei Halacha? Yore. Rebbe says, yes, he can give Piskei Halacha. Yodin, can he be a judge? Yodin, yes, he can be a judge. Yatir B'choris, can he look at a Bechor and then paskin whether it is, if it has a mum, if it's a mum kavua, which because a Bechor, when there's no Beis Hamikdash, what do you do with a Bechor? There's not much to do. You just have to wait for it to get a mum, and then you can eat it. So does he have the authority to look at an animal and be able to determine if a mum is a passing mum, which would not disqualify it for a korban, and therefore you still can't do anything with it, or is it a mum kavua, a permanent mum, in which case you could shecht it and eat it? So does he have the authority to be matir b'choris? Yatir b'choris, yes, he can do that too. Why is it super interesting? Maybe many of you already know why it's super interesting. The reason why it's super interesting is because smicha nowadays, and we're going to learn more about smicha nowadays in about a week from now. I think on Daf Yud Aleph Mud Beis, about what smicha in the past was, right? The unbroken chain from Moshe Rabbeinu until Rabbi Yehuda ben Bavel was one of the Sarugei Malchus. But we'll get there in about a week. But anyways, nowadays people have smicha, right? You go to, let's say, Yeshiva University or whatever it is, you get smicha. So that's what's called yore. Generally speaking, that's what's called, if I'm not mistaken, I'm no expert, I don't have smicha. But generally speaking, I believe that the smicha that most people get, to be like a shul rabbi or let's say the rabbi of your shul or something. I imagine in most cases, they have what's called yore smicha. Meaning they're not a dayan, that would be yodin smicha, right? Dayanus. Most rabbis are what are they? They paskin sort of day to day, right? Orach chaim kind of halachas, right? Or some other things, I guess, also. But that's what's I think referred to as yore. Most people have smicha; they have yore smicha that you can paskin shilas. But then there's a different smicha which is dayanus, and that's yodin. So most people I think it's probably very rare to only have yodin smicha. Most people, I think, have yore smicha. Some people then will study dayanus and also have yodin smicha. But so that's and I think it comes from here, right? Right? So Rabbi Bar Chana was going to Bavel, and Reb Chia asked Rabbi, he says, yodin, yatir b'choros, yatir. Yes. So I think that this is where yore, yodin comes from. Very interesting. Kavanachis Rav LeBavel, when Reb Chia's other nephew, Rav, was making Yeridah from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel, Omar Le, Reb Chia LeRebbi, so Reb Chia says to Reb Yehuda Nasi, Ben Achosi Yored LeBavel, the son of my sister is making Yeridah to Bavel. The Gemara is about to ask, why is he calling him the son of his sister? Shouldn't have been the son of his brother, Evo? But anyways, okay. Yore, yodin, yatir b'choros, al yatir. Interesting. And we're going to talk about this in a second. So Rebbe says, sure, yes, yore, yodin. However, when it comes to being matir b'choros, Rebbe said no, not Rav. Now, ma'ishna l'mar de kakari ben achiu, ma'ishna l'mar de kakari ben achosi. How come Rabbi Bar Chana, Reb Chia referred to Rabbi Bar Chana as the son of his brother, and he referred to Rav as the son of his sister? After all, as we're about to see, both Chana, Rabbi Bar Chana's father, and Evo, Rav's father, were Reb Chia's brothers. V'chi tema nehochiava ma'aseh. And if you're going to tell me, well, Rabbi Bar Chana was the son of Reb Chia's brother, and Rav was the son of Reb Chia's sister, but we said Evo, who was Rav's father, V'chana, who was Rabbi Bar Chana's father, V'shila umarta, V'Reb Chia, kulu b'nei Abba bar Acha karsla mikafri avu. They were all the sons of Abba bar Acha karsla mikafri. So they were all brothers. So Rav was the son of Reb Chia's brother, Evo. Why is he saying the son of Reb Chia's sister? Okay. So Rav bar Achva dehava bar Achte. Rav bar Chana bar Achva delav bar Achte. Shtickle Sanhedrin vomis over here. That, interestingly, Rav's parents, Evo, and whatever his mother's name was, I think actually, does it say somewhere what his mother's name? Rav, one second. No, I don't think it's that. No. I don't know what his name was. Anyways, basically, Reb Chia's father, who was Abba bar Acha karsla mikafri, had 5 sons. One of them was Chana, one of them was Evo. Okay, so Rav's father Evo and Reb Chia shared the same father. But interestingly, Reb Chia's mother, basically Reb Chia had a sister who shared the same mother but a different father. So basically, Reb Chia had a sister who shared a mother with him. However, her father was not Evo's father. So basically, this sister had completely different parents to this sister. Reb Chia's sister had completely different parents to Evo, right? Because this sister, right, basically, Reb Chia and Evo had the same father but different mothers. Okay, and then this sister had the same mother as Reb Chia, but a different father. So basically, Avo married this sister of Reb Chia's. So Avo was Reb Chia's brother. It was basically, I guess, his stepsister or something. This is confused. Sanhedrin vamos. The point is, Avo was Reb Chia's brother, and he married Reb Chia's sister, but Avo and Reb Chia's sister had totally different parents. But anyways, so therefore, Reb Chia referred to Rabbi Bar Chana as the son of his brother because he was the son of his brother Chana, and he referred to Rab as the son of his sister because even though he was the son of his brother Avo, but Avo was married to also his sister, so he referred to him as the son of his sister. All right, shtickle son is Javomis. Alternatively, why did Reb Chia refer to Rav as the son of his sister? Al Shem Chochmaso, because Rav was so smart. After all, the pasuk says, "Emor lachochma achosiat." Say to wisdom, "You are my sister." So Reb Chia referred to Rav as the son of his sister, as sort of a metaphor, as a reference to how much of an Eloi Rav was. That Emor lachochma achosiat, therefore he referred to as the son of his sister. Okay. Now, Frekti Gemara al Yatir Bechoris. Oh wait, where am I? Achosiat. Yatir Bechoris al Yatir. My timer. Now, why did Rabbi Bar Chana got all three smichas? Yodin Yodin, Yor Yodin Yodin, Yatir Bechoris. Rav got Yor Yodin Yodin, but not Yatir Bechoris. Why not? My timer. How come Ilim Mishum Deloi Chokim? If it's because Rav, because Rav wasn't so smart. He wasn't smart enough to get Yatir Bechoris. How come? In the Chokim Tuva, we literally just said that Reb Chia possibly referred to Rav as the son of his sister because he was so exceedingly smart, and it's a reference to Emor L'Chochma Chosia. So clearly it's not that he lacked the cognitive abilities for Yatir Bechoris. Mishum Dilo Baki Bimume. Okay, well maybe Rav, even though he was so smart, he had a gap in his knowledge when it came to Yatir Bechoris. But that's not true either. Rav, listen to this, Chaver. Mamash, listen to this. Rav said, Shmona Osir Chodashim, for a year and a half, for 18 months. Godalti Eitzel Roeh. I lived with a shepherd. Rabbeima Leda Eze Mum Kavur Be'eze Mum Over, just so that I could know the difference between a Mum Kavur and a Mum Over, between a temporary blemish and a permanent blemish. Because it would require a permanent blemish in order to be Matir a Bechor. Says Rav, I mamish, in order to be able to know the ins and outs of these halachas, I mamish lived with a shepherd for a year and a half, so that I would be an expert in this field. So again, why was he denied Yatir Bechoris? One possibility is because Rebbe wanted to give kavod to Rabbi Bar Chana. Everybody knew Rav. Rav was an Eloi. Rav was Rav. Rav Tano Upoli. Rav is like the greatest of the great. So Rav, his name preceded him. When he got to Bavel, there was no problem. Obviously, people would give him respect. But what about Rabbi Bar Chana? He was lesser known. So in order to make sure that Rabbi Bar Chana would have the proper kavod in Bavel, Rebbe gave him Yatir Bechoris while not giving it to Rav, so it would be like, wait, who's this? Who's Rabbi Bar Chana? He got Yatir Bechoris, Rav didn't get Yatir Bechoris. Wow, Rabbi Bar Chana must be a special person too. Alternatively, Mishum HaGufa. You hear this? We said a second ago that Rav was actually an outstanding expert when it comes to mumin. He lived with a shepherd for 18 months in order to learn that. So Mishum HaGufe, that Rav was such an expert that's why he couldn't be allowed to be Matir Bechoris. The Rabboki b'Mumei Tfei, Rav was such an expert when it came to Mumin, V'shari Mumei Dilo Yada Inche, that he would be allowed to permit a Mum and say, this is a Mum Kavua, that everybody else would have assumed was a Mum Over. Ve'amri ki agav nashar Rav asul mishay Mum Over, and they would allow a Mum Over. Meaning, Rav was such an expert that he can look at a Mum, and while to anybody else's eye, they would say, this is a mum over. This is not a proper mum. You can't eat this bechor. But Rav, because he was such an expert, he would know actually this is a mum kavua. You could eat this bechor, and he would permit it. But then what would happen is people would see this and they would say, "Oh, interesting. This is actually a mum kavua." And then on their own, they would start, allowing, being matir for themselves these mums because they saw that Rav said that it's permitted. But the truth is, no, Rav was such an expert that he knew that in this particular instance of it is permitted. But every other instance that to everybody else's eye looked like the same, but really it was different, they would think it's the same and they would be matir it for themselves, even though that's incorrect. So therefore, because Rav was such an expert, Rebbe had to say, actually, we can't allow you to be matir bechoris because it could actually lead to scenarios where people are going to end up being on their own being matir bechoris because they saw Rav do it, even though they don't realize it, but their scenario is different than Rav's. Okay, fine. Now, Frekti Gemara, Yore. Frekti Gemara, okay, why do you need permission for Yore? For Yodin, I get it, right? We talked about you have to have a Gamirna, V'Savirna, V'Nakitna, Rishusam, Mereish Gelusa. You have to have permission in order to judge. But why do you have to have permission in order to paskin shilas? In order to say that something is mutter, something's asur. What do you need permission for? So, Igami Rishus Alamali, look, if he knows the halachas, well, what does he need the permission for? We said, okay, to be a judge, you need permission, because otherwise, if you make a mistake in certain scenarios, you'll be chayiv to pay. But why would you need permission to paskin shilas? So, Igami Rishus Alamali the Mishkal, why do you need permission? Mishum Maisa Shahaya, because of a Maisa that happened. Titania, what was the Maisa? We learned about Pam Achas Halach Rebbe L'makom Echad. One time, Rebbe visited a certain place. V'roa b'nei Adam, and he saw that there were people there. Shemegablin isoseim betuma. And he saw that there were people there that they were kneading dough in vessels that were tameh. They weren't being mitaher the vessels. And he found this very strange. Wouldn't you, why are they not being concerned about the halachos of tumah and tara? Why are they kneading dough in tameh vessels? Or why are they not being mitaher the vessels before they're using them? So he says to them, how come you're doing this? How come you're kneading dough in a tameh vessel? Amrulo, they said, I'll tell you why. Because Talmud Echad Balachan, one time, a Talmud Chacham came here, v'hora lanu, and he taught to us, and he paskind, mei bitzoim ein machshirin, that marsh waters are not machshir lekabel tumah, and we are kneading our doughs with marsh waters, and therefore they're not actually mekabel tumah, these doughs, and therefore there's no problem with kneading them in tamei vessels because they are not mekabel tumah. Vehu, but the fact of the matter is that this Talmud Chacham didn't say marsh waters are not machshir lekabel tumah. May beitzim darshlu. We said eggs. Eggs won't be machshir lekabel tumah. Eggs will not be machshir lekabel tumah. But marsh water, of course, water, even if it's from a marsh, would be machshir lekabel tumah. Ve'inu saver, and they thought may bitzoim kamar, and they thought that he said marsh waters. So therefore they mistakenly were kneading their doughs in marsh water, in tummy vessels, assuming that the dough was tahor, because marsh waters are not machshir lekabel tumah, but that's not true. Marsh waters are machshir lekabel tumah. This Talmud Chacham didn't say may bitzaim, he said may beitzim. He said beitzim. Yeah, may beitzim. Fine. V'to nami, and they also made a mistake, beha, in the following, may karmion may figa, waters from karmion and figa, which are marshes, psulin, are possible for mechatas, for the water with the paraduma ashes. Mipnei shehein may, I don't know, so in parentheses it says bitzoim, the Goz V'Tzunim says beitzim, but Rashi sees him say bitzoim. I don't know, it's a little bit, I think maybe bitzoim taka makes sense, right? That these marsh waters are possible for the mechatas, the inu saver, and they figured Since these marsh waters are possible for mechatas, for paradum water, so they're also, right, there's a problem with these waters, and they're also not machshir l'kabel tumah. V'loi, but that's not actually true. Also, when it comes to mechatas, le'inyan chatas ba'inyan mayim chaim. Right, it says, "B'nasan alav mayim chaim el keli." It has to be spring water, and these aren't spring waters. Hacha achshuri koldu machshir. But here, look, if it's water, it's going to be machshir l'kabel tumah. So basically, these people were making a mistake because of the fact, ultimately, that this Talmud Chacham came and said, what he really said was, Mei Beitzim is not machshir l'kabel tumah, but they thought he said Mei Beitzim machshir l'kabel tumah. Tana ba'os hashah gazru. So at that time, they made the gezerah Talmud al Yoreh Elim Keinoto Rishus Merabo, that a Talmud Chacham can only paskin halacha if he has permission to do so from his Rebbe, which is very interesting, right? Because so that's super interesting. Meaning, so I think like in Yeshiva University, for example, as part of their smicha program, I think you also have to take all sorts of courses, right? Because I think that they're not just, I'm sure, I assume that most smichas aren't necessarily like this, but they're not just teaching you the information, right? They're also teaching you how to paskin shilas, how to be a rabbi. I think you have to like either get like, also you have to get a master's degree together with it, but I think you also have all sorts of like, classes about stuff, I don't know, but like it's not just the actual information, because I think the point is, it's relevant to this whether they do it for this reason or not, they might do it for this reason, but the point I'm making is that what would happen here is that you had a Talmud Chacham who knew the halachos, but he didn't know how to communicate them properly. And because of this miscommunication, that led to actual problems, because they were being matame these doughs while they thought that they weren't, because he said Mei Beitzim, but they thought he said Mei Beitzim. So the reason why you need permission to paskin shilas is because, whether it's in this case Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, but whoever is giving the smicha, who's ever giving the permission, needs to make sure that the person who he's giving permission to is somebody who not just knows the halachos, but also knows how to communicate properly. So that the psak, that the piskei halacha that he's giving are going to be understood correctly. So just as important as knowing the information is also knowing how to convey it. And that is why you need Yoreh smicha, because the person giving the smicha has to ensure that the person receiving it not only knows the halachas, but also how to communicate them. Very interesting stuff. Tanchum Breder of Ami, Ikla Lechaser. So Tanchum Breder of Ami visited Chaser. Darshlu, and he expounded for them, Mutter Lilsos Chitin Bepesach, it's permitted to soak wheat kernels on Pesach and then to grind them immediately afterwards and make them into matzah. You can soak them to make them softer first. So Amrullah, they said to him, Lav Reb Mani de Minsur Yikacha, but one second, Reb Mani de Minsur is in this town. Betani, we learned in Brisa, Tamid al Yor Halacha b'Mokum Rabu. A student should not teach halacha in the place where his Rebbe is. So you shouldn't be passing halacha here. In order for a Talmud to pass in halacha, he would have to be at least 3 parsas away from his Rebbe, Keneged Machni Yisrael, equal to the distance of the camp of Israel in the desert. Amar Lahu, so Reb Tanchum Breder Reb Ami says, Lav Adatoy, I didn't realize that he was in this neighborhood. Okay. Reb Chia saw a certain fellow who was in a cemetery. Amarle, he said to the fellow, Lav ben ish ploni koinata, aren't you the son of a koin? Amarlo, he says, yes, I am the son of a koin. However, I am not a koin. Avua da'u gavra, my father, gva inayim hava, he followed his eyes, nosanena begrusha v'chilelo, and he got romantically engaged with a grusha. Now, of course, a kohen is not allowed to marry a grusha, but he did, and gave birth to this child who is now a chalal, and that is why he was in the cemetery. Pshita lepalga ha ka'amar de mahani. Okay, so we said that it's possible to get partial, certain different kinds of smichas, right? We said that Rav received Yoreh, Yadin, Yadin, but not Yatir B'choros. Okay, so we said you can get certain smichas, but not others, and that's fine. You'll just, have smicha for the things that you have smicha for. So al tanai mai, but what if you have smicha under condition that I'm giving you smicha for the next year or two? So Tashma Kamanir the Amalei Rabbi Yochanan said to Rabbi Shemin, Ari ata b'shusenu, you have smicha ad, you have permission ad shetavo etzleinu, until you come back to us, right? What does Rashi say? You have permission to judge until you come back. But when you come back, it'll be revoked. So basically, it's conditional permission, and that is considered permitted. I am going to stop here because the next sugya kind of like segues, I think, into really the next daf. So I think I'm going to stop here. This is a very interesting daf, though. We talked about being a mumche lirabim and having permission to be able to judge. We got into smichas, yadin yadin, yore yore, all sorts of interesting things on this daf. Peace out.